Welcome to Gotta Talk. This is Will Sanchez. My special guest tonight is Michael Ring. He is a long-term member of the Prospect Park Track Club and more recently the course programmer for the Brooklyn Marathon. Actually, he is the course programmer for all the runs at New York City Runs. I met Michael some years ago at the annual last 10 miles of the marathon hosted by the Prospect Park Track Club. Michael was one of the co-leaders. From him and that club, I learned the meaning of paying it forward. They held a wonderful program. So I'm thrilled to welcome Michael to the show.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Michael, let's get started by introducing yourself to our audience. For example, where were you born? A little bit about your childhood.
I was born in Brookdale Hospital in Brooklyn. Grew up in Sheepshead Bay, went to Sheepshead Bay High School, went to college, and then moved back to Park Slope, where I'm raising my family.
Rest of your family. As a youngster, were you athletically involved?
I guess the opposite of athletically involved. I was pretty much a spaz when I grew up, but that caused me to become a runner because I remember going to high school in the beginning in freshman year. I had to go to gym, and I hated it. And climbing ropes and learning how to wrestle and basketball and changing your clothes real fast. But after a couple of weeks, the coaches were all in the gym, and they said if you get on any varsity team, you don't have to go to gym anymore. And in fact, they made gym my last period class, and you just leave school earlier and go right to practice. And you get an A in gym or 95, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the basketball, football, baseball, they all had tryouts, and I didn't even dream of making these teams. But I asked the track coach what I have to do to get on the team, and he said, well, you just show up and try. And this track is scored differently. If you're no good in baseball and you strike out every time, no one wants you on the team. Mm-hmm. But if you're not the greatest runner and you don't win, it doesn't matter because you're just listed as also ran, and you participated. And I participated in 4 years of indoor, outdoor, and cross-country track. I made friends on the track team. Some of them were faster than me, and they didn't mind that I never won, and never in high school did I ever contribute to a victory. I don't think in Sheepshead we ever actually had a victory. So it didn't really matter. I enjoyed it. And now I'm on the Prospect Park track team, and only once did I ever contribute to any victory. But once the Roadrunners Club used to have a program where 50 runners finished under 5 hours in the New York City Marathon. Mm-hmm. They awarded the club $500. And I was the 50th, finishing in just under 5 hours. I was the slowest member. And it was like, wow, I was the one.
That's great.
Yeah, but we have members of our club that one of my teammates just won his age group in the 50K national championship, which means he's the national champion. But just like back in high school, he doesn't look at me as someone who hurts the team. Yeah. We're friends.
Yeah.
We're both, he has no problem with me being on the same team as him.
Well, that's true of all the running companies or the running clubs that I've been associated with. Yeah. It's a great camaraderie, the great friendships.
Yeah, I get to drive the trophies home, and I feel good about it.
That's great. Now, you mentioned the Prospect Park Track Club. That's one of the biggest clubs in the city, probably the biggest one in Brooklyn, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, North Brooklyn might be up there with us.
Excellent.
So, we're the oldest club in Brooklyn.
Okay. How did you find them, or did they find you?
Well, no, they didn't find me at all. But when I returned to running when I was an adult, I wanted to run the New York City Marathon. And this was the early 90s, and I heard rumors that, it was competitive to get in. There was a lottery. And back in the 90s, it wasn't really a lottery. It was more of who you know. And I found out that if you're a member of the Prospect Park Track Club and you don't get in through the lottery, you get in anyway.
Oh, they had a certain number of
We had a certain number
of slots.
Yeah, and basically, once the lottery ended, it was a first cut. You had to mail in your application back then. And then if you didn't get in, this little phone network went out, like, who didn't get in? And then you'd say, well, I didn't get in. And then the next thing you knew, you got in. Because they just, someone called in your name and you were in.
Do you remember your first year that you did that?
It was 1993.
93. Do you remember what the fees were back then?
Oh, it was probably about $50.
$50.
Yeah. I remember picking up my bib at the convention center, where the Time Warner Center is now.
Oh, okay.
And it was this big, dusty old hall.
Okay.
And then, we had to go to the Hilton. It was a much smaller scale event.
Okay.
back even in the early 90s.
Yes, yes. Now, obviously you enjoyed that because you kept on doing more marathons.
I ran every New York Marathon since '93, and a few others. I think I'm up to about 29 or 30 right now.
Altogether.
Altogether.
Now, are there any ones that stick out besides New York that were memorable for whatever reasons?
I always wanted to break 4 hours, and the one time I did it, it was a looping course on Randall's Island. The Sri Chinmoy people put on a marathon once a month, and they went out there in March of 2000 and decided I'm going to break 4 hours or I'm going to walk off the course at 20 miles because then I can go back next month. And I did. At 20 miles, I said, I don't have it in me today.
Okay.
And a month later, I showed up, and the race management people remembered me because the only 9 people started this marathon, the one in April.
I never heard of it, so.
Well, the Sri Chinmoy is kind of a faith-based running program. Sri is a guru who believes the path to spiritual enlightenment is through physical fitness.
Okay.
So his disciples put on the means they put on races.
Now, this marathon you did under 4 hours, was it a Boston qualifier?
It was certified. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. They did a lot of really nice things for me because they knew I wanted to break 4 hours. And
Right.
I wanted to run 9-minute even splits. And 9 people started. And every time I passed the start-finish line, they told me, I said, okay, you just ran an 8:30, you got 30 seconds in the bank. Then I ran another 8:30, and they said, now you got a minute in the bank. When I got up to 20 miles, they said, okay, you ran a 9, but you still have 10 minutes in the bank because I was running sub 9-minute miles.
Okay.
So when I did mile 25, and they said, and I was, getting hit the wall a little bit, and they said, well, you just ran a 9:30 or something, but you still have 2 minutes in the bank. I ran that mile all I wanted to do was break 4 hours.
Right.
So I finished in 3:58, last. Everyone who started waited for me.
Oh, wow.
All
The other 8.
8 people. My wife, and I knew I had to finish this marathon. This is my last chance because at the time my wife was she was 7 months pregnant with our twins. So my life was going to change. But I finished, and I'm laying in the grass, and they handed me a trophy. They said, congratulations, you're 4th in your age group. And I said, but I finished last. And he said, sir, I said, congratulations, you're 4th in your age group.
I finally hit you.
And I'm like, okay, I got a trophy.
And I'm sure it has a great spot at home.
It's part of my shrine, that my kids call it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you have lots of medals. Okay, certainly shirts.
I have T-shirts. I have medals. I have. I put them up in a corner.
Okay.
I think it inspires my kids. They're on a youth track team.
Okay. Cool. Now, when you did that marathon, were you a member of the Prospect Park Track Club?
Yeah, I joined the club. That was in 2000, and I joined in '93. I went with there were members of the club. They went there with me.
Okay.
So I got a ride there.
Oh, cool. Well, your Prospect Track Club is great.
Yeah.
First time like I said, I ran into you guys when you hold your annual last 10 miles at the marathon.
Well, that's what the week before the marathon, we just put on a little group run, and we just kind of put it out to the public. We're not sure if what we're doing is more or less legal. Our group grew from 10 people to a few hundred, and it doesn't cost us much to, add a couple more gallons of water and some extra cookies. And we just say, come run with us. It's the streets. It's fun. It's a good feeling. And what you said, pay it forward. We're doing it because, why shouldn't we tell people to come along with us? There are other people who charge for this. And we're like, okay, you want to pay someone else money?
Well, several clubs have the last 10 miles.
Yeah.
And you may be one of the first. And,
Yeah, we might be.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other interesting stories of other marathons?
I ran New York this year, in 2013, and I volunteered to be a pace team leader.
Oh, cool.
Having run New York so many times, I decided I had more fun and pay it forward, as you said. And I really kind of achieved rock star status because the toughest part about the New York Marathon is getting there so early. And I didn't see this coming, but this pace team program came with a heated tent, and it was lovely. I led the 5-hour people, but I shared the tent with the people who were leading the 2:30 people. So these were some incredible athletes that we just, hung out for an hour.
All the paces.
The Pacers just all hung out in the same tent. You know, we had a little bit of a buffet and our own private bathrooms, and it was cold, so we didn't want to leave the tent. You know, every now and then our friends would come visit us, and you know.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, what's involved in being a pacer?
Well, the Roadrunners Club looks for volunteers, and you have to have run a couple of marathons a little bit faster than the pace you say you're going to lead.
Well, you had that 3:59 or 3:58 in the bank.
But that was 12 years ago. But I've been running 4:30s regularly now, and they just ask you to hold up a sign. And it turned out, this was an amazing coincidence, that one of my college friends, someone I worked with in college, that I bump into at races, like we wave at each other. I'm like, hi, Pauline, and she says, hi, Michael. Like once a year over the past 20 years, she was also pacing the 5-hour group. So we got a little bit separated because we had different corrals to start in. But in the end, in the last 6 miles, we merged, and we had different styles, which worked well. She was more of the coach, like, let's go, let's stay together, and I was more of the tour guide. You know, hey, is everyone okay? You know, and I just kept talking. You know, this is where, you know, this is where I had my teeth pulled. You know, we passed the Williamsburg Savings Bank building, which, you know, was all dentists years ago. And
I see. So you were a tour guide. So that's interesting that the 5-hour was more kind of conversational pace.
well, for me, it was conversational.
Okay.
And, you know, but for the people I pulled along, they were pushing themselves a little better.
Okay.
And then the funniest thing is that when I finished, there was like one woman next to me, and I said, we did it. You're the only one who stayed with me. Then it turned out directly behind me were 2 people who ran every step of the way with me, but never spoke to me. And they said, we were here the whole time. We were just listening. And I didn't even know they were there. They just stayed in my wake, and I brought them in at 5:02, and we, you know, we all had this big group hug, and it was a good feeling. You know, they all said that they never would have made it in 5 hours without me. You know, and I don't know how I maintained that steady 11:30 pace. You know, I never practiced running, but you
never practiced pacing.
Never practiced pacing.
It is very difficult.
At every mile, I said, oh, that was 11:30. Let's do another one. Let's do another one, and just kept going, and worked out. You know, I did it.
Excellent. You might do it again.
I applied. You know, and that's what made me want to do it again. Was like I'm going to run the marathon anyway, but to have a heated tent is
Well, you might have competition now that people know about this way of getting a heated
Well,
tent.
I applied for the New York City half, and I didn't get accepted. And I asked them why. I thought I did a good job, and they said, "Well, you did, but we want to give other people a chance."
Oh,
I said, "Fair enough."
I see. To be a pacer. Oh, good, cool. They want to share the wealth, so to speak.
It is. It's a fun experience.
Okay.
Very rewarding.
All right. But now you're a member of the New York City Runs.
Yeah, I'm staff for NYC Runs.
With Steve Lasto. How did you and Steve get together?
He invited me to breakfast one day. You know, I decided to take a bigger leadership role in the Prospect Park Track Club and started organizing races. And his website was more a bit, he wasn't organizing races yet. He was just doing the social end of running. And he wanted to get into race management, and he found me and said,
Well, he's a member of the Prospect Park.
Oh, he wasn't then.
Oh, he wasn't then?
No,
Okay.
no. He just said, hey, you do this. Could we work together? And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to.
What was the first race you guys did together?
The first race we did together was Riverside Park. Now we developed it into a every other week, a Wednesday night series that kind of complements the Al Goldstein Prospect Park Summer Speed Series. So it's the other Wednesdays in the summer. But we did one, and we did the whole thing out of my Civic. You know, the timing mats and all the equipment and all the water fit into my Civic. And the company's come a long way because now we have 4 trucks, you know, and
You have grown. This is how long ago?
I think that was 3 years ago.
3 years. You've grown dramatically.
Yeah.
Because now you got 4 trucks.
I think there's 4 trucks, you know.
And you park it in your garage? Or?
No, we park them in a lot. We can't. That's one of the weird logistical problems is that you can't park in front of your house. You have to park the truck, and it's 2 miles from my house.
So you got to drive to your trucks.
I got to take the bike to the truck or take the subway to the truck, and
Wow.
you know, the things grow.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about New York City Runs because you're practically the face of New York City Runs in the sense that you're the guy on the bike.
I'm the guy on the bike. Yeah.
People want to take their picture with you because you're leading them.
Sometimes, yeah. I like it a lot. It's a really enjoyable, it's a rewarding thing to do. Usually, I lead I'll start out in front of the race, and make sure, my job is to make sure the course is accurate, like measured accurately, the mile markers are where they should be, and then that everyone follows the correct course. So usually to make sure everyone follows the correct course, I have to place course marshals, arrows in the ground sometimes, and then as a matter of redundancy, you want people pointing, you want arrows in the ground, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get on my bike and follow me. And sometimes it's hard. Like the race we have in Riverside Park has extreme hills in it.
Oh, yeah.
In order to have the leaders follow me, I have to get a head start on the hill, because I'm not an athletic biker. But then I lead the winner in, and I give him a glass of water. But then I go back on the course, and I get in the back and follow the back of the course. And sometimes I chat with the people in the back, and they always feel like, oh, I'm sorry I'm last. I'm sorry I'm making you wait. And then I say, and I mean this, I say, listen, if I wasn't back here with you, I'd be packing a truck right now. And I mean it.
Somebody else is packing.
I said, listen, this is what I'm doing. I'm out here. I want to make sure you're okay. And the people the people who finish last, I think many of them work harder than the people who finish first. I mean, to run a marathon in 7 or 8 hours, it's a long day.
That's very difficult.
I mean, it's hard. And 5K level, the people who are big people who are just starting to run, and their feeling of finishing their first 5K in 40 minutes, it's wonderful it's wonderful to help them do that.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And you get a little exercise with the bike.
Sometimes, and I've also learned that I could ride a lot in one given day to the point where I'm sore, but the next day I go for a training run and I realize, well, the muscles I'm going to run with aren't the ones that hurt from biking. So I'm staying fit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and also sometimes like I'll bike out to the turnaround point and wait there. And some of these races, we're on Shore Road, we're underneath the Verrazano Bridge, or on Governor's Island or Roosevelt Island. It's an awfully nice place to be.
Your variety is just tremendous.
Yeah.
It's just not Prospect Park or Central Park.
Being in
it's
Central
all over
Park,
the city.
Setting up the mile markers for the Central Park Marathon, we had to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like be there at 5 o'clock in the morning.
With your volunteers.
With the volunteers, and the quantity of raccoons that we encountered. I'm like, you realize these guys, they're good at hiding, because if they're there during the day and no one sees them, there's a lot of them, they find a nice place to take a nap during the day.
I don't know it's a raccoon haven. You sure the raccoons are not rats? So.
They were raccoons. No, they're huge beasts. Huge. And rats run away. I've seen plenty of rats. The raccoons just look at you. I mean, they just like, oh, there's a person. It's not going to.
They're going to feed me.
Well, yeah, and Central Park's full of garbage, so there's lots for them to eat.
Interesting. Well, let's jump into the Brooklyn Marathon, because you're the course director for that.
Yeah.
You proudly put it on your Facebook page.
Yeah. And
that started when?
We've had 3 of them, so it started 3.5 years ago. The planning has been going on for at least 4 years. I mean.
You and Steve got together and said, Brooklyn needs a marathon. How did that come about? Who decided when?
Oh, this was definitely Steve's. Steve basically, the way NYC Runs works is he says it, and then all of a sudden we go, oh, we got to do that? and we do it. He raises the bar.
Okay.
Like, I was like, you really want to put on a marathon now? You think and he's like, yes, we're ready, let's do it. And basically the Cherry Tree is a 10-mile race that's 3 loops.
Oh, that's been around forever.
Yeah. And so if we can do 3 loops, it's just an expanding on that same model. It's not doing it in a race in a park. It's harder, but it's simple. It's like if you can have a 10-mile race, why can't you have a 26-mile race? A 10-mile race with 1,500 people, 26-mile race with 500 people. Just a longer day. You need to have more medics there, and it worked.
It did. It was very successful. You had at least the 500 that first year.
Yeah.
Cool. Were there any surprises in setting that up? Any lessons learned?
The second year was a challenge because it happened in the wake of Sandy, and the park wouldn't expand our permit for more people because Prospect Park was actually wasn't affected by the hurricane, but all the beach equipment was being stored on the roadway. Like they took all the beach cleaning gear and park equipment out of Manhattan Beach and Coney Island and moved it to the high ground of Prospect Park.
Interesting.
So the roadway was narrowed up, so we couldn't make a bigger race. So we wanted to, but it just wasn't happening.
So you stuck to 500, but that must have been a very special day for you guys.
It was, yeah. And we were able to give our leftovers to Occupy Sandy.
Oh, cool.
You know, our water and our fruit we always order. You can't run out, so you have to order too much.
Right. Well, in fact, your bagels are the best.
Well, I don't want to compare myself, to the Roadrunners Club. The Roadrunners Club is really good at putting on really large races.
Oh yeah, lots of them. Yeah.
But I got to say, their bagels are like the bagels you get on an airplane.
Yeah, they're terrible.
And our bagels, we pick them up in the morning. Sometimes, we ask them to get sliced, and the bagel shops apologizes. They say, well, we couldn't cut them because they're too hot. So they cut them the half away instead of the slicing way that you'd want a bagel sliced.
Yeah.
They cut them in half because they said they're still too
hot.
soft.
Oh.
And they put them in the big paper bag, and we put 20 paper bags together. So after the race, they're still hot.
Now, do you get these from one place in Brooklyn?
I've been going with Terrace Bagels on Prospect Park West. They make it easy. They also provide our hot chocolate. Our fruit, we get the day before the race from Rossman's wholesale fruit on 3rd Avenue.
In Brooklyn again?
In Brooklyn. And I know the manager, and we have a good relationship. I could walk in, and I say, well, okay, I'm going to need 10 cases of apples and some what berries are good for eat tomorrow. So he's happy to get rid of his stuff that's extra ripe, like almost too ripe. I said, we're going to eat it tomorrow. But this winter, we had some challenges. I'd go in there on a Saturday when it was 9 degrees, and he said, you're going to keep the stuff in a truck overnight. Your apples are going to be rocks in the morning.
Okay.
So but they're open 24/7. So he said, it'll be ready. Come here at 5 o'clock in the morning. It'll be on a cart for you, and we'll load it into your truck.
Excellent.
So a little plug for Rossman's.
What are some of the future challenges in terms of racing?
Challenges for racing. Well, as far as
let's break it down. Personally for yourself, are there
Personally
any
for
new
myself,
goals that you have?
in May, for the 3rd year in a row, I'm going to be running the Bob Potts Marathon. Sean Potts is Bob Potts' son. Bob Potts was a runner in York, Pennsylvania, and Bob named a race after his dad when his dad passed away. It's the Sunday before Memorial Day. It's a rail trail race. York is near Gettysburg. It's an out and back on a rail trail that's through awfully beautiful country, kind of the Amish part of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Shady, wooded, goes through canyons. It's flat as a pancake. It's actually a 1% railroad grade up to the midpoint, which is imperceivable. But then you make a U-turn, and it's a 2% difference. So suddenly your return to the finish is downhill. And it's soft. Like 90% of the surface is the same kind of stuff like around the Reservoir Loop in Central Park.
Stone dust.
Yeah. So it's a place to find out how fast you can run.
You might do negative split.
That's a dream for me. A negative split would be nice. Yeah. But I'm trying to get back close to 4 hours again.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. Well, what about New York City Runs? Any secrets you can reveal?
It's not a secret, but our goal of our company is bringing the Brooklyn Marathon onto the streets. I'm waiting for Steve. Steve and I met before we put the marathon in Prospect Park. Steve had a meeting of Brooklyn running people, and all we did was talk about maps. We played with maps. 26 miles in Brooklyn. There's so many wonderful courses. Some people said, oh, the Greenway would be great, from Williamsburg to the Brooklyn Bridge and then wiggle over to Shore Road and finish in Coney Island.
That'd be great.
Or an alternative course would be to start at Borough Hall and go take Flatbush Avenue through Prospect Park and take Bedford Avenue into Marine Park and then finish in Coney Island. I mean, there's just so many ways to cover 26 miles. And it's politics. I'm letting Steve is handling that end of things. Yeah. He's working with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and the City Department.
A lot of people will be involved in that on all your electives. Would you keep it at 500, or you want
we could. No, then it would have to become something bigger, and we wouldn't keep it because there'd be thousands of people who'd want to do it. Yeah. And we'd have to have different kinds of sponsorships. We'd have to to close the streets. You need
Different logistics.
It's a much different thing. I mean, we put on the Yonkers Marathon. We have to deal with the Yonkers PD, but most of the intersections don't need to be closed. But if you want to cross streets in Brooklyn, you have to close the streets.
Right. That's a different deal.
Yeah, Yonkers on a Sunday is a calm place.
Well, Yonkers is the second oldest marathon
Yeah.
in the country, so you're picking up an historical. That's an awesome responsibility. Not only do you guys create your own races, but you take over other races that were probably a little bit of trouble
Yeah.
and revitalize them.
Yeah, a lot of little races. You know, the people who have been running them don't have the means to do electronic timing or internet race registration, and NYC Runs is helping them out.
You guys are doing a great job. But listen, on that note, I wish you great luck getting Brooklyn Marathon into the streets and seeing you around different venues. Thank you so much for dropping in.
Thanks, this was great.